Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans. 30% of Americans who are planning home improvements of $5,000 or more will pay for those renovations with a high-interest credit card. That may not be a great idea. A better idea may be to take cash out of your home with a Quicken Loans 30-year fixed-rate mortgage. The rate today on our 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is 4.125%. APR 4.22%. Call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com.
Rate subject to change. Pay 0.88% fee to receive this discounted rate. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. License in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030.
I'll say this for him, he's consistent.
Well, he's been so consistent all year.
Not the taste, consistency.
Consistently, yes.
Consistency!
Thanks, losers.
And boom, we are back. Fantasy Football Consistency Show. I'm your host, Bob Blung, here with my good friend, Ron Rigney. Ron, good to have you back. Hope all is well down in Florida. It's a hot one here today, but typical Ohio weather. It was a high of 89 yesterday, and Saturday is supposed to be a high of 60. So welcome to fall. How are you going?
Doing good. You know, it's hot here too. Obviously, it's hot here all the time, so it's nothing new to me. But
right.
You know, we're not worried about the weather. We're worried about my Rays playing tonight. They got off to a good start, 1-0 homer in the first inning.
Nice.
Out in Oakland. So Rays up, baby.
Yeah. Good luck to them. Indians fell a few games short. Tough year for them. I think they had the talent, but the pitching was hurt. Kluber really never did much. Carrasco going down was a real kick in the nuts. It was a tough year for them. For the fact they even got that close, I give them a tip of the hat, that's for sure. They fought hard, but hopefully they make some off-season trades and some pickups and kind of I think there's not much to rebuild, but there's certainly some weaknesses, and we'll get to try back in the playoffs next year, and hopefully they can take the juice out of the balls this year so that they don't have to play in a division where a team hits 325 home runs. It's crazy. But as always, welcome to the Full-Time Fantasy Podcast Network. Yeah, easy for me to say. As always, we're here as a part of that group. And if you haven't had a chance to check out some of the other great podcasts on that network, you certainly can. And two of them we know for sure are awesome. One of them, of course, is Consistently Cashing with Ron and Colby Conway, and myself and Colby doing Prop It Like It's Hot. I'm excited. Well, I'm not excited because after Colby had to fly solo last week in the show, this week I got to take his spot and fly solo in the show. So him and I are having some conflicts with scheduling, but I'm even more excited. Big guy, here's the thing. The guy I was telling you about, FF Man Bun, is working on the Prop It Like It's Hot rap intro. I can't be more excited. I'm telling you, man. If this guy does anything as good as the one I heard that he did, it's going to be off the charts. And it was funny, too, because at first he didn't – I don't know why he didn't pick this up. And I said, yeah, it's like Drop It Like It's Hot by Snoop Dogg. He's like, oh, duh, because how did I miss that reference? He goes, oh, yeah, dude, this is gonna be awesome. And I'm like, okay, I'll leave it in your hands, man. It's about prop bets and consistency and fantasy football, and, you just do your magic, and I'm sure it'll be amazing. So hopefully he'll get that done. We'll get that in to the intro for the next week's show. But anyway, but we do have a new sponsor tonight. It is Fantasy Go, G-O. FantasyGo.com is the site. And this is really a super cool idea. I'm a part of this. I think Colby is. Ron, we got to get you in as an analyst as well. But here's how it works. Basically, Fantasy Go is like an Uber of fantasy football. So basically, you can rent us for just the week. Let's say you're 0-4, you're 1-3, you're struggling, you're not sure about some of your waiver wire moves. No big deal. Now, I know that, hey, if you're a member of the website, that's cool, and we'll help you out as well. But let's say you're not a member. Let's say you're not willing to drop the $20 to be a VIP access member of the site, and that's fine. I get it. But you want a little consistency in your life. You want a little consistency in your fantasy football team. That's fine. That's what we're here for. So code fantasygo.com, and if you email them at info@fantasygo.com. You can take advantage right now of their free trial. So you can rent me for free for a weekend. All you got to do is, first off, you have to be in the Yahoo format. You have to have a Yahoo League. So you go to fantasygo.com, sync up your team, search for Bob L, for Bob Long, of course. Hire me as your analyst for the week, and that's it. I'll run your team for you all week long, make waiver claims, ad drops, bench moves, maybe even some trades. We can look at some trade options. So instead of sending questions back and forth, you basically just sync me into your team, and I can help you, kind of pop the hood on your fantasy team and set your lineup, and, then we can take care of that. And if it works out well, you can hire me for the next week and the next week. And it's cool because it's not very expensive on a weekly basis. Again, right now, if you do it, you can do it for free for a free trial, and I can help you out. And, you can, like I said, so go to the site. You'll see a spot where you can search for the analyst. You can find me, Bob L. And like I said, they're running a free trial. Just email them at info@fantasygo.com. And you can take advantage of that free trial. And, of course, tell them the big guy sent you to that. So check that out. Pretty cool idea. I think that cool. It's going to take some time because people aren't used to that. But, hey, people weren't used to, grabbing some guy off the street to drive him around the city. So that probably sounded dumb the first time to a lot of people as well. So, but let's get into fantasy football. Holy cow, dude. We're into week 5 already. Did the month just blow by, or is it just me?
Well, I was going to say, it seems like we just did this podcast yesterday.
Yeah. It's just like, it was just a blink. I mean, September's gone. It's October 2nd. Unbelievable. So some news and notes just real quick so we can get into the main important stuff, which is our year-to-date consistency numbers for the 4 positions. Melvin Gordon should be back 100% this week. He is, good to go. My thought is they'll probably share some time between him and Eckler for a while. I don't think this is going to be all of a sudden Eckler's getting only 5 touches a game. I think he's going to be a major part of this team, especially with some of the injuries they've had. They've Mike Williams has, been struggling. No Hunter Henry, of course. The team is going to need Eckler, I think, and I could see them easily using both guys out of the backfield. Your thoughts on the Chargers there?
Oh, definitely. When you have 2 guys like that at your disposal, why you wouldn't use them both? I don't really know. And Eckler's done it, not just carrying the ball, but I believe he's hit somewhere around 220 yards rushing and 270 receiving. So he's actually caught the ball out of the backfield more than he's actually ran it yardage-wise. So he's accounted for, I think, about 6 touchdowns as well. So there's no way that he's not going to see a decent share, and there's no way he's not going to still be a useful fantasy piece. It might dip a little bit, obviously, because he's giving up some touches. But maybe your fringy RB2, maybe your flex spot, I think he's a perfect fit there.
Yeah, I mean, I have him in some leagues. In the Kings Classic Auction League, I have him, and I kind of went with him. I traded away Devontae Freeman, which really didn't hurt me that much. I got Sammy Watkins back for him from Mike Clay. I think it's a fair trade. They both pretty much have sucked. But the only reason I did this because I had Eckler as my flex and as my backup. So I was pretty cool with that, moved him into the RB2 spot. And you know what? I'm fine with that. I mean, I think it's going to take some time for Gordon to get back to 100%, in shape. And let's be honest, how many times have you seen guys that, hold out for a while, then they come back in week 4 or 5, and a couple weeks in, they've got a tweaked hammy, they've got a calf problem, they've got a groin problem. So, not that I'm wishing that on Melvin Gordon by any stretch. I do have Melvin Gordon in some leagues as well that I drafted, but you just never know. So I'm not panicking about that at all. Some guys who are back at practice and in full, Tyreek Hill, Damian Williams in Kansas City. Like this team needs any more white weapons. I mean, they struggled last week. They did win. It was the first time I'd ever seen Patrick Mahomes. He was actually, think about this big guy, he was only 2 points away from missing a clutch game. Holy cow. I mean, we might as well just give up on this guy and just throw him in the trash at this point. Come on. But yeah, only like 21 points, barely over that 19 threshold. What are we going to do with him? But I think he'll be fine. Yeah, he's trash. So, yeah, in fact, I think I heard on Sirius Radio one of those call-ins on the weekends where somebody was all pissed off about him not throwing any touchdowns. He's like, Patrick Mahomes, you suck. And it was Ratcliffe's show, so it was Pro Football Focus. And Ratcliffe goes, Yeah, this guy sucks. Yeah, you probably should trade him to me if I'm in your league. But anyway, it just shows you how people just, gosh, they so overreact with that. But so Tyreek, Damian Williams. The Damian Williams one's going to be interesting because, the Darren Williams wasn't doing too bad. McCoy's been, has been okay, even though he's been kind of banged up. I mean, I got to believe they just push him right into the job, right? And put him back at the number one spot if nobody's 100% healthy. I mean, he certainly was talented when he was there.
Yeah, I think it's got to be his job. It was his job going in. They added McCoy late. And I think McCoy still gets a fair share of carries, but I think it's got to be Williams' job when he gets back.
Right. I think it'd be good for McCoy to be able to have somebody, that Darren Williams filled in. It was funny because somebody said, man, I should pick up Darren Williams because he's been awesome. Well, what people don't realize is that, he did have 2 rushing touchdowns, but he was 13 rushing attempts for 19 rushing yards. It's not like this guy set the world on fire. The only reason he did anything was because he had the 2 rushing touchdowns. He was 13 for 19. Come on. That's terrible. So this guy is not a Damian Williams by any stretch. I don't know why people are thinking that. So anyway, he's good. One last thing for you people like me and Ron and Colby, you're having a rough year for kickers because you went out and you got one of 2 kickers in every team in your league, which I did. Fairbairn from Houston or Gostkowski from New England. Fairbairn has sucked. He might as well not be out there. I think he's kicking like he's got a bad hip. Gostkowski actually does have a bad hip, and he's out for the year. So the reign of Gostkowski as your stud kicker getting you 10, 12 points a week could be over. This could be it for him. We don't know, but got to go out there. You might have to get that Matt Gay kicker from Tampa Bay. There's some other guys out there. I think Jason Myers from Seattle is out there. He hasn't been doing too bad. So got to go out and get a kicker, man. It seems like Gostkowski has almost been around as long as Vinatieri, but I think they're both are starting to seen better days and might be moseying out of the pasture.
It's hard to say, though, because those kickers hang on forever. You got the guys like, the Vinatieri's and the Morton Andersons of the world that, they feel like they've been in the league 30 years. And Gostkowski's got that feel. I don't know necessarily how many years he's been in, but it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a long time. I know it's not as long as Vinatieri, but it's been damn close. But because wasn't he the one who replaced Vinatieri when Vinatieri left New England?
I believe so.
Yeah, so, it's amazing how long New England's had a kick-ass kicker. So, all right, well, we have spent 12 minutes on that stuff, so let's move quickly. Let's go to the quarterbacks. So if you're a subscriber to the site, you already know this because you've read the articles, but starting in week 4 every year from this point out, we will always be putting in the article the year-to-date consistency numbers. Now, if you want to know, hey, Bob, where do I get those on an ongoing basis? That's fine. Come to the Big Guy Fantasy Sports site. You can go there, and that's the Clutch Report. And if you remember, for those of you who have been longtime subscribers and followers, we upgraded the report greatly this offseason. Not only does it do everything you want by putting your own scoring method and seeing who the most consistent players are this year for your teams, this year you can download the reports right into Excel. So if you want to have this same year-to-date consistency report for quarterbacks, just like I'm holding in my hand and Ron has in his hand, you can get that right off the site and download it into Excel. You can sort it. You can do what you want with it. Put it in consistency order, fantasy points order, whatever you want to do. It's there for you, and you can get that right on the site. And all you need is the access, whether it's the in-season access or VIP access. Either one will get you to that point. So we're looking at it. When we look at consistency, there's only 4 quarterbacks who are perfectly 100% consistent. Patrick Mahomes, we counted on. Lamar Jackson, I'm not sure we were counting on it, but he's there. Matt Ryan, Carson Wentz are the other 2, but that's it. A lot of surprises who aren't there. The guys who aren't there, the Aaron Rodgers, the Baker Mayfields, the Drew Brees, Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson. I could go on and on and on. Basically everybody except those 4. I think Mahomes, we know Holmes will keep going. I think Lamar Jackson keeps this up. He had, I watched the Browns game this week against Baltimore. And, they certainly kept him as in check in that game as they could. They won the football game. They got the job done. The defense did a nice job of really maintaining and controlling Jackson and not letting him, get too far downfield with, they kind of kept their lanes with the rush to make sure he couldn't run too far. They held the run game in check. Mark Ingram didn't do anything. And yet still Lamar Jackson still earned a clutch game, by a small margin, but, he certainly was there. I actually had 29 points. Never mind. So he did well, but a lot of it was garbage time. They were down a lot. He threw a big bomb touchdown to a 50-yarder there near the end of the game. So, I think he continues. Matt Ryan and Carson Wentz really are a factor of their defense. Their defense both suck. And they're having to play, not from behind, but they have to throw the ball a lot to keep up in these games. It's going to be a while, I think, for any of these four really get knocked out and not earn a clutch game. What are your thoughts on the big four who are perfectly consistent?
I think it's one of those things with Patrick Mahomes, and I'm not saying he's on this level of greatness yet. He's definitely well on his way if he can continue the pace he's continuing. But I think it's kind of a thing where, when you remember Michael Jordan used to play, and it was just a matter of when Jordan was out on the court, the opposing team was just trying to limit what he could do as much as they could. You knew you weren't going to stop him at all. And I think that's the same thing with Mahomes. He's proving that he's getting to that level. I don't know if he's going to be, a guy they're going to see in Canton. You don't know what's going to happen, but I mean, he's kind of a guy that you just got to minimize the damage from. Lamar Jackson, I think, stays there. I'm kind of with you, and I think he'll just there'll be some weeks where he'll be right on that cusp of just barely getting there with the clutch game. But he does enough with his legs, too, that he can kind of, I don't want to say disappoint with the pass, but he's not going to have to do as much with the pass because he's getting that consistent 75, 60 yards a game and a rushing score here and there. So he's going to do enough that he's going to be right there. I don't necessarily see a big drop-off from any of these four guys. I mean, they have a ton of weapons around them. I don't see any reason that they couldn't. I mean, it's hard to say that they're going to go 100% all year.
Right.
But I think they're going to be right there and be very close, and they're definitely going to be at the top there as far as our clutch ratings.
Yeah, I agree. I think, for sure Ryan and Wentz, who have always been around 75% consistent, if I'm a betting guy, I feel like unless they get hurt, both of those guys will be around that 75%. And that's what we were expecting out of them. They were part of our streaming concept, was getting these guys like these two that can put up some good numbers and then mix them in when they might have some tough games on the road or at wherever they're playing. The good thing is that they're playing in divisions that have some of the worst defenses in the NFL. I mean, Philadelphia plays with Dallas, the Giants, and Washington, who all are giving up lots of points recently. Probably the Cowboys are the best defense, but even them have shown that they're certainly vulnerable. As we look down the rest of the list, a lot of quarterbacks at 75%. No surprise there. I think the bigger surprise, we've already talked about how bad Rodgers and Baker Mayfield, who both just earned their first clutch game, but the ones that, are the Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson, who are third. Russell Wilson's third in total points. Watson's eighth, but they're both at 50% consistent. If you remember from the guide, and one of the things I talk about is how slowly Russell Wilson always starts off. And in the last 3 years prior to this year, through the first 5 games, he's never had more than 2 clutch games. He's always been around 1 for 5 or 2 for 5. Well, guess what? Russell Wilson's 2 for 4. And he plays tomorrow night against the Rams on television. Can he get to 3 and 5 and be the first time in years? Maybe, but you just never know. But he's always had that slow start, and then he'll pop off 10 or 12 straight. So, I think the biggest one is Deshaun Watson, and we don't have Colby here because he's probably still crying, and he probably wouldn't be able to hold back the tears while we're on the air. But is it just the offensive line? I mean, it's really weird that they're not making an impact, because the weird thing is, like Carlos Hyde, is averaging about 80, 90 to 100 yards in total offense a game, whether it's rushing or receiving or total. So they're it's not like the running game is terrible. It's just that him and Hopkins aren't clicking. The whole team, the offense isn't clicking.
Well, and it's hard to put your your finger on exactly what it is, because they just appear flat, just all over the place offensively, and I think a lot of it has to do with the offensive line. But I don't know if it's timing. I don't know what it is. But we didn't see this last year. We talked a lot about how Watson was up there towards the top. DeAndre Hopkins, I think, he's been perfectly consistent 2 straight years, been the number one guy, and he's definitely not been that this season. I know I have in my biggest money league, I went with the Deshaun Watson and DeAndre Hopkins stack, and boy, has that worked out for me. Let me tell you.
No wonder you're 0-4.
No wonder I absolutely know why I'm 0-4 when I look at my roster.
Did you change your team name to the Colby non-clutch?
I got to change
change it to the Con No Ways.
Perfect. Done.
All right, let's move on to the running backs. Running backs are actually not in too bad of a shape. There's no real running back that's having a terrible year that was a top guy. Well, I take that back unless you drafted Joe Mixon. Most of the studs are doing what they need to do. There's no real drop off at that level. I think that's key. Obviously, the injury to Barkley hurt. No pun intended. But I did hear that he was out on the field already jogging. So the 4 to 8 weeks looks like it's going to be closer to 4. So that's a good thing for Barkley owners if you're one out there. So definitely keep an eye on that. But it's good to see that he's out there. And somebody mentioned that he had a high ankle sprain in college and only missed 2 weeks, and then came back in the 3rd week and ran for like 180 yards rushing or something that week. So Barkley's a god, and we'll hopefully see him back soon. There are a few expected guys at the 100% right now: Dalvin Cook, Nick Chubb, maybe Derrick Henry, depending on how much you loved him. I mean, he did pull off 5 or 6 straight last year, so he certainly hasn't let up. Ezekiel Elliott 4 for 4, even though he's 10th in total points, which is kind of a surprise. But a couple of the surprises there are of Austin Eckler and Leonard Fournette. Eckler maybe not as much, because we knew that he could fill in for Melvin Gordon when needed. I don't think we expected him to be almost first in total points, but he has been, and I think that's why I think we know we'll see him continue to be a big part of the Chargers offense. Leonard Fournette, though, almost too quiet. He's performing. He's putting up good numbers. He's keeping his mouth shut. It's almost scary. It's almost like a ticking time bomb. Like you're just waiting for something to go down. What are your thoughts on these guys, especially Fournette? Has he finally grown up, or is he just? I don't know. I'm almost scared. Like if somebody offered me Fournette in a trade, I still don't know if I'd go, sure, yeah. I mean, it depends on who I'm trading away, but I still don't know. I just feel like it's like, man, if I went out and tried to trade for him now, I feel like then that would be the week that all of a sudden he just starts, punching, cameramen on the sidelines or something.
Well, the rushing yards are there, and he's catching the ball a little bit out of the backfield, reception-wise, not doing a ton with yards. I'd like to see him get in the end zone. That's something he's not been able to do yet. Right. But it's hard to see. It's hard to believe that he is 4 for 4. I did have a chance in the offseason, right before the season started. Bleacher Report had a really good article about Leonard Fournette and how he went. I believe his strength coach from college is at a university. I don't know if it's the University of Wyoming or it's a university out in the middle of nowhere. Okay. And he left Florida and went up there and worked out all winter. And left his family behind, and reading that article, it really gave you hope as far as not even just from a fantasy standpoint, but just hoping that he kind of figured out things and isn't a knucklehead. And it really kind of made me excited for him. And lo and behold,
you were so excited it knocked off your headset.
It did, man. I'm just fired up. So, lo and behold, it actually is kind of panning out that way. So hopefully he can keep it up. But it's good to see him do that, like I said, just because he's figured it out more as a human being, not necessarily from a fantasy standpoint.
Definitely. One of our favorite guys throughout his career, especially from a consistency standpoint, was always Frank Gore. We always loved Frank Gore when he was in his heyday in San Francisco, and this guy just never gets old. I'm starting to question both him and Larry Fitzgerald just for, being part of the alien race that Tom Brady and everybody else is. Last week against a very tough Patriots defense. He puts up 109 rushing yards. He is now 3 for 4 for the year, 75% consistency, 24th in total points. Really didn't play much, I think, in week 1 because Devin Singletary was playing. The guy just keeps doing it, man. And Singletary's coming back. We'll have to see how that all plays out. But, man, you got to love that guy. And, by the way, he just happened to go over 15,000 yards rushing. Only 3 other guys in the history of the NFL ever did it. Emmitt Smith, Barry Sanders, Walter Payton. Decent crowd to be amongst. If I am driving Hall of Fame, Frank Gore, we welcome you to town when it becomes your year because I don't see how you don't get in, that's for sure. But it's just hard to believe. I mean, if you ever would have thought that watching him playing all this time that you'd go, yeah, Frank Gore, yeah, he's a Hall of Famer. That's a guarantee. But
well, no,
how
it's
do you
cool.
not?
It's cool to see because, being a Hurricanes fan, it's cool to see him succeed on that level. But just the way he's done it, too, just, quiet and just professional and just week after week, week in and week out, just I would have liked to see him been a little more successful with my Colts last year, but it was cool to have him there for a little while. But just awesome and just I think he'd be an awesome guy for you to get to drive for sure.
Yeah, kind of scary looking though. It's almost he just has that intimidating look.
Yeah.
Like I'd almost be like I'd be good to be around him because I know nobody would kick my ass, but still kind of a scary guy.
Yes, yes, Mr. Gore, whatever you say.
Yes, sir, Mr. Gore. Yes, sir. Man. Whatever you say, Mr. Gore. Yes, take you to the Waffle House at 4:00 in the morning. Why, of course, Mr. Gore. I did it for Champ Bailey. Why would I not do it for you?
Awesome.
Yeah. So, all right, any other the running backs that you're kind of looking at the
only one that kind of stands out for me is when we're looking at the 100% guys. It's kind of interesting to see a New England running back there, just with the way they've kind of mixed and matched it. Now, I will preface it by saying it is James White, and he is 31st in total points, and he's squeaked in there with 3 for 3 clutch games. So that's kind of surprising. And I guess while we're on the subject of my 0-4. Wonderful money league team there. Mm-hmm. James Conner and Sony Michel are another couple of guys that are killing me there. Also, just I can't even scroll down far enough on this list to find them because it's going to depress me. So,
yeah, no, it's definitely Sony Michel. Somebody was asking me about them last night, and I said, yeah, you might want to pack that one up for the year. So, as I said, it's just New England. I really thought that they would mix it up a little or let him do it more. I don't know why. Maybe he's not 100% healthy. I just don't understand how he ran so well through the playoffs in the Super Bowl, and now, unless he's playing against the Dolphins or some crap team, he barely puts up 80 yards rushing and is not doing much at all. He's not getting much touchdowns. And
it says a lot about the state of things with Sony Michel when you're willing to start and you talk yourself into it being a good idea to start Wayne Gallman, which actually did pay off last week.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's move on to the wide receivers here. Right now, there's 5 if you count the 3 for 3 guys who did have an injury. T.Y. Hilton and Terry McLaurin both had injuries and missed a game, but they are 100% consistent when they're on the field. Michael Thomas, probably expected him to be there. Cooper Kupp. If you remember, right before he went down last year, I think he was 5 of 6 in clutch games. So he certainly had the consistency. But 4 for 4, second in total points. Most of it came in that Cleveland game when he went. Was it Cleveland that he went crazy? No, New Orleans game that he went crazy.
New Orleans, yeah.
No, I think it was Cleveland game.
Was it?
I mean, it was. I don't know. It's both.
New Orleans sounded right.
Yeah, where he had the big game, but still 4 for 4. But the other guy at 4 for 4, Tyrell Williams from Oakland. I did hear that he's kind of hurting as well, may miss this week. But, again, they have nobody else in Oakland. It's him and Darren Waller, who's also 4 for 4 consistent in the tight ends, and we'll get to that in a minute. Certainly a guy. I think I might have drafted him in a few leagues as a late-round pick, just as especially when it got closer – to the season, especially the leagues in my last 2 weeks, right before when AB started to, click the crazy scale a little bit, and I was like, maybe I better grab Tyrell Williams, and he's panned off in a few leagues for me, that's for sure, where I've needed him to. Those guys are all 100% consistent. So again, some surprises there. At the 75% level, that's where you see most of the guys you'd expect: Keenan Allen, Julio Jones, Tyler Lockett, Odell Beckham, Brandon Cooks, Tyler Boyd. Surprisingly, Adam Thielen's there. A lot of people are really down on Adam Thielen. Yes, he only had 2 points last week. I get it. But he's still 3 for 4, 37 the total points. Yeah, that's not good. That's not top 3. That's not even a wide receiver 3. But you know who's right beside him? Juju Smith-Schuster, who's 38th and is 75% consistent. So, those guys have some potential. Both of them are heading in the wrong direction, especially Schuster with the mess that they've got in Pittsburgh with Mason Rudolph at quarterback. But real quick, and I'll just pick out a few, and you can pick out a few as well. It's the guys that are there. One, I'm going to highlight, of course, the guys that I picked in the consistency guide as some of my favorites to pick in the late rounds, and that is Larry Fitzgerald, Emmanuel Sanders, and who else? Tyler Lockett was also one of my favorites that I liked a lot, and Mohamed Sanu was a late round guy, but he's 3 for 4. But all of those guys doing very well, definitely helping my Kings Classic leagues because I have both, I think, Fitzgerald and Sanders in both of those divisions, or both of those snake and auction draft. But of those guys, or even guys maybe even a little further down, any in there that you really like and you're happy that you got on your team, other than, of course, your big money league?
Well, it'd have to start with Tyler Lockett. I ended up with him in a lot of places just because I thought the value was very good. So he has been one of the few point scorers in that big money league. I do have him as my wide receiver 3 in that league because it is a very shallow league. Go down a little bit further. I have Emmanuel Sanders in a couple places like you do. Got him late, had a good value on him. Brandon Cooks is a guy that, we expected consistent things out of him and Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods. And we're kind of getting that. Robert Woods a little further down on the consistency chart here, but Cook's 3 for 4. Tyler Boyd's a guy too. With John Ross being out, he's going to even get more targets coming up. I don't know if you trust Andy Dalton that much because he was but he showed up pretty high on our consistency rankings as well. I was pretty surprised with that, him being 75%. So he's a guy that I have in a few places. And Adam Thielen, it's getting a little scary with Adam Thielen. I read a thing earlier where when Kirk Cousins said your quarterback has to come out and apologize to you for being bad at football, that's not good because he's supposed to be good at football, and he's making a lot of money to do so. So it's kind of scary. Adam Thielen's almost becoming a touchdown-dependent guy, and I never thought I would say that, with where he was going in drafts.
Right. And if you have Adam Thielen and you feel bad about having Adam Thielen, take a look at where Stephon Diggs is and their owners, where he's 51st in total points and 50% consistent. I did see, I don't know if you saw this on Twitter, and I don't know how far back this was, but have you seen the clip of the gender reveal where Kirk Cousins is throwing? I
actually watched that about an hour ago. Yeah. No,
okay. Oh my gosh, I was crying because it's like, now we know the problem. Sad.
Maybe you hurt his rotator cuff doing that.
Yeah, he must have.
He looked like he released it a little funny, so maybe he's hurt from that. I don't know.
Questioning. Real quick on the wide receivers, I think the thing that's disappointing is the poor consistency of some of the studs, even though if they're high in total points. So let's start with Mike Evans, 4th in total points, obviously because of 2 weeks ago, big week. But he's 50% consistent. Devontae Adams, 50% consistent. Robert Woods, DeAndre Hopkins, Marvin Jones, Julian Edelman, Jarvis Landry, Calvin Ridley, Josh Gordon. All of these guys are at 50%. And the sad part is, like I said, it's one thing if you're like a Mike Evans guy, owner, and you got the big week, and he's been inconsistent, but at least when he's been good, he's been real good. But like we talked about with Hopkins and Woods and some of these guys, they're not doing much of anything. I mean, Edelman only 32nd in total points. I mean, that is not what we expected, especially when AB left. I thought when AB left, oh yeah, no problem. And I get it. Edelman's been kind of banged up. He's a tough guy, obviously having some chest injuries, some chest problems. That can't be a lot of fun as a wide receiver, taking a shot in the chest every time you catch a ball. But still, Landry just finally had a good week to kind of get back into the flow. I mean, some of these guys will turn things around, but, man, some of these guys are wide receiver-wise are just kind of not doing what we expect. I'm sure, again, don't panic out there. If you're one of these owners of these players, and I am, Ron is, we all are, don't panic. That's what consistency is about. You're going to have, at the end of the year, if DeAndre Hopkins and Mike Evans and all these end up at 12 of 16 at 75%, that means there's 2 more games they're going to also have bad, and they're going to be fine. 2 for 4 is not the end of the world. They're not going to end up 50% consistent. So don't worry about that. If anything, go out there and find some of these guys who are a little more consistent that people don't even realize, like Cole Beasley, who's 3 for 4, Mohamed Sanu, who's 3 for 4, John Brown, probably most people know. Cortland Sutton's 3 for 4, DJ Chark, the Tyrell Williams and all those kind of folks. So, if they're not injured, keep a look, keep an eye on them. We'll keep updating you on who the more consistent receivers are, so you can pick them off the waiver wires and help your team out. Because, as the bye weeks start getting more and more packed up with teams, these first couple, I think they only have 2 each week, but they'll get into the 4s and 5s teams out for a week. That's when you're going to need those consistent players that might be able to help you for a week or 2. So definitely make sure that you get out there and take a look at that. Any other thoughts on wide receivers, Ron?
Just crazy to see our top 2 guys consistency-wise from last year. And, like you said, there's a lot of football left, but it's crazy to see Adams and Hawkins down there in the 30s. I don't know if we've ever seen that. Amazing. Following up a season for guys to be that far down after 4 weeks.
Especially Hopkins. Hopkins is the one I think I'm even more amazed by, because he put up 2 straight seasons of perfectly consistent numbers. I mean, you couldn't find a more, consistent player in this system. I mean, I don't think we've seen, like you said, the last time we had 2 straight years of consistency was Antonio Brown back in his heyday a few years ago. It's so rare. And when he did finally miss a couple of his games in a row, AB in his 3rd season, it was only because Big Ben missed 6 games. So, you go, okay, I get it. You had a reason. Antonio Brown doesn't, because he's got whatever they had, Charlie Batch or I don't even, Landry Jones. I don't remember who the backup quarter was. But, okay, I get it. But there's nothing wrong physically with either one of these guys, or that Deshaun Watson, or they traded and supposedly got better offensive linemen. I watched a couple of those games too, and I don't know if it's the offensive line that's the problem. It just seems like he's not getting open. Certainly Watson is not getting the ball to him timely. I don't know if it's, like you said, timing, overthrowing balls, underthrowing balls. Certainly teams are going to focus on stopping him and probably are putting 2 defenders on him, but he's also not scaring anybody with Fuller or Stills or anybody else. So, why is Hopkins not getting open? That's what we don't know. So, anyway. All right, let's move on to the tight ends here. 4 perfectly consistent tight ends after week 4. Travis Kelce, absolutely no problem. We figured that. Zach Ertz, absolutely. We certainly figured that. Maybe more surprising for those 2 is that Kelce is not number 1 in total points. He's 3rd. And Ertz is 8th in total points. But they are 4 for 4. Our favorite, my favorite, I'm so glad I drafted this guy. I literally almost tear up every time I talk about him, and that's Evan Ingram. Number 1 in total points, perfect 4 for 4 consistency. I was a little worried when Daniel Jones took over, because I'm like, well, what kind of rapport are these 2 going to have together? And what he put up, like 8 for 110 yards and a touchdown that game. So no problem there. He's certainly a favorite of Danny Dimes, so that's a good thing. Darren Waller is the other one, perfectly consistent, as we talked about. Oakland really has 2 people to throw to, and Derek Carr is throwing it to Darren Waller, and he's throwing it to Tyrell Williams. So both of those guys, I think, will continue to see the targets. Who you don't see up there is George Kittle. He did miss a game he missed a game because of a bye week. So he's 2 for 3, but he's only 13th in total points. So that's a little disappointing. Certainly not putting up the big numbers we were hoping for to be up there, with Ertz and Kelce. But, time will come. They play the Browns this week on Monday night, so that'll be interesting. The Browns, if you remember, struggled against Delaney Walker for Tennessee, so they certainly have their troubles with the tight end. So you might see Kittle get back into the flow. What are your thoughts on the guys you're seeing here at the top, 100% consistent? Any guys that you're? I suppose Waller is the biggest surprise, but there was a lot of hype about him going into preseason.
Well, and like you said, it's just kind of out of necessity. There's not to take anything away from Darren Waller. Even before the AB stuff, when he was a Raider, people were still on him. But it's just kind of out of necessity, and he's going to continue to get the targets because, like you said, there's nobody. Zach Ertz is a little deceiving at 100% because, especially if you have him in a standard league, I actually do play still in a couple of those. He's really not been that good as far as in a standard league. He's gotten right to that cusp of being a clutch performer, but hasn't been that tight end one that you were hoping he would be. And yeah, it's interesting to see George Kittle down there 13th in total points, but still 2 for 3 consistency wise. The main guy there though is a Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews is a guy that's kind of come out of nowhere, and it's cool to see Will Dissly there as well. Those guys are kind of back.
Yeah,
to back
Will
there.
Dissly, I'm going to admit right now, is saving my ass in every league that I drafted Jared Cook.
Yeah.
Because, and let me, again, I apologize. I think every week so far in all of my articles, I am going to personally apologize to the public. I am so sorry for telling you to draft Jared Cook. But I did it too, so I feel your pain. I don't know. I just seem like they would just be a perfect fit for New Orleans and Drew Brees. Now I get it. Brees is hurt. Maybe they would have started clicking, but they weren't clicking prior to that. So I don't know about that. But there you go. I'm sorry. Go back to what you were saying.
No, just cool to see those two guys there in the middle, especially with where you were able to get Will Dissly. Like you said, you're drafting Jared Cook as your number one. You're taking Will Dissly at the end of your drafts as your second guy, and he ends up being top 6. He's 6 in total points. He's 3 out of 4 consistency wise, and he's going to continue to get targets from Russell Wilson because I think once again, it's Tyler Lockett. He throws a little bit to DK Metcalf, but for the most part, it's Tyler Lockett and Will Dissly. So the targets are going to be there, I think, all season.
In most of the leagues, I honestly didn't even draft Dissly as my backup. I picked him up off the waivers. Yeah. So that's I said. He's really been saving my butt. But as always, as expected, we only got about 3 minutes, so I want to be quick. Tight ends. This is what we talked about. The con streaming issue. Quarterbacks and tight ends. Tight ends right now, there are only 8 tight ends that are over 50% consistent total overall. And one of them is, like you said, is Andrews, Dissly, and Austin Hooper, which, I'm not going to say that he's finally broken through and becoming the consistent guy that everybody's wanting to be, but so far so good. But, the Greg Olsons, the Delaney Walkers, the Ebrons, the Njokus, on and on and on, all the way down to Jared Cook, Jack Doyle, Tyler Eifert, O.J. Howard. Gosh, don't even get started on the guys who drafted O.J. Howard. They're killing us. And so this is why, if you would have, read the article and the guide, it talked about getting guys like Olsen and Walker and them, and then just kind of matching up when they had the best things, because I think that if you looked, you could have gotten Olsen Walker, and you might have been able to con-stream a 100% consistent scenario with those two guys. So, we talked about that. That's certainly something to look at. And there's some guys coming up. Ricky Seals-Jones is looking good in Cleveland. Pick him up off the waiver wires. Jordan Akins from Houston had a nice game this past week. They're looking to him because obviously he's one of the few that is open for that team. So definitely keep an eye out. So, Ron, time flew as always. We got about 1:40. Tell everybody where you're at, what you're doing, consistently cashing all the money you guys are making.
Okay, so wrapping up the baseball season over on the Nasty Cast, Fantrax Dynasty Baseball. We're just getting started with our off-season previews. We did our second one of those, did Baltimore. Last night was the last episode of the Nasty Cast until 2020. Puts our end-of-season awards out for that one. Come check out the Prop Bet podcast this Saturday. Come check out Colby and myself doing Consistently Cash, and we're doing that Friday night. Hit a little hiccup last week. Going to get right back with it this week. Hopefully get back in the saddle and win you a little bit of money over at BigGuyFantasySports.com. Yeah, definitely. And as always, you can find me at Bob_Lung on Twitter. As Ron said, we'll be back doing the Prop Bet Consistency. Had a little time issue last week. Didn't get into them a lot. But we've had a good season so far. We're definitely going to get back into the flow of that.
Definitely probably be looking at a Thursday night. We're still winning some money on Thrive Fantasy, so if you get a chance, go there. Don't forget, go to thrivefantasy.com where you can do kind of basically prop bet game. And when you go there, use BGFS as your coupon code, and you get an extra $10 added to your balance, regardless of what I think as long as you deposit 10, you get at least 10. But you get $10 as long as you're 10 or more. So make sure you go and get that, and playing some games against Ron and Colby and I. So we've been doing pretty well on that. So come with us and come help win some money. So we're going to let you go at this point. Everybody have a great week. Take care. God bless. We'll see you next week. And don't forget, stay consistent.
Let's say you just bought a house. Bad news is, you're one step closer to becoming your parents. You'll proudly mow the lawn. Ask if anybody noticed you mowed the lawn. Tell people to stay off the lawn. Compare it to your neighbor's lawn. And complain about having to mow the lawn again. Good news is, it's easy to bundle home and auto through Progressive and save on your car insurance, which, of course, will go right into the lawn. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Discount not available in all states or situations.